Hey guys, lesson questions. How do I classify skills? And what is the information processing model and how does it work? So let's start with how do I classify skills? Motor or movement skills can be classified on a continuum. A continuum is a range or sliding scale between two extreme points. Each point on a continuum is slightly greater or lesser than its neighbors. You can move up or down the continuum. As you can see on this continuum, we're starting with closed skills and then finishing with open skills. So a variety of different skills, whether it be in different sports or even in the same sport, will find themselves on different levels throughout the continuum. So, examples of environmental factors. So, we could have other people, for example, a netballer reacting to their own or the other team's players. We could have terrain or surface, for example, a cross country runner running on muddy or dry ground. The weather, for example, a golfer playing on a windy day, or the situation, for example, the venue or the crowd. We have self-paced and externally paced skills. So self-paced skills, the skill is started when the performer decides to start it. The speed, rate, or pace of the skill is controlled by the performer. And externally paced skills, the skill that is started because of an external factor. The speed, rate, or pace of the skill is controlled by external factors such as opponents. So, open skills. An open skill is a skill which is performed in a certain way to deal with a changing or unstable environment, such as to outwit an opponent. A closed skill is a skill which is not affected by the environment or performers within it. The skill tends to be done the same way each time. So, for example, before the hitting of a return shot in tennis, the player needs to think about their own position on the court and what shots they will be able to perform. They need to think about their opposition players' position on the court. They need to think about the weather. Is there wind that might affect the direction of the ball? And they need to think about the playing surface. Is it slippery, meaning shots can't be played? Edit. Open skills. A skill which is performed in a certain way to deal with a changing or unstable environment. For example, to outwit an opponent. Closed skills. A skill which is not affected by the environment or performers within it. The skill tends to be done the same way each time. So we're going to have a look at a return shot in tennis. The player is going to need to think about their own position on the court and what shots they will be able to perform. They'll need to think about their opposition player's position on the court. They'll need to think about the weather. Is there open skills? A skill which is performed in a certain way to deal with a changing or unstable environment. So, for example, to outwit an opponent. We have closed skills, a skill which is not affected by the environment or performers within it. The skill tends to be done the same way each time. So, for example, before hitting a return shot in tennis, the player needs to think about their own position on the court and what shots they will be able to perform. They'll need to think about their opposition player's position on the court. They'll need to think about their weather. Is the wind which might affect the direction of the ball or the playing surface? So is it slippery, meaning some shots can't be played? We have basic or simple skills. So these are skills where very few decisions need to be made. These are skills which can be learnt very quickly and they require low level of coordination to complete. And then we have complex skills. So lots of decisions need to be made. They require a high level of coordination and require a high level of concentration. Now, what is the information processing model and how does this work? So information processing, there are 4 stages in the information processing model. So this is where we make decisions, gathering data from the display or sensors, prioritizing the most important stimuli to make a suitable decision. So let's have a look at stage 1, which is the input. Information from the display or sensors. Selective attention. This is where the performer focuses their concentration on what they are doing or about to do and ignores all other distractions. At the cognitive or early stages, this will overload the decision-making process. As the learner becomes more skilled, they selectively attend the correct cues and information. Stage 2. This is decision-making. So selection of appropriate response from memory. The role of long-term and short-term memory. So the what, when, where, and how you should respond. Then we have stage 3, which is the output. So this is information sent to the muscles to carry out the response. And then stage 4, we have feedback. This will indicate whether or not the response was correct or successful. So it's received via self or intrinsic and or others, which is extrinsic. So free kick in football. So stage 1, the input. The performer will look at the position of the goalkeeper in the goal and the position of the defenders who are stood in the wall. If it is windy, they would take this into account. So selective attention, being able to ignore noise from the crowd or other players and just focus on above. Then we have stage 2, the decision making. The footballer will be thinking about where they should kick the ball. For example, top right corner or left top corner. Memory recall. They will think about where they directed their shot when they took previous free kicks and if they were successful or not. Stage 3, output. The footballer makes the decision of where they will hit the ball, and the brain sends messages to the muscles to perform the correct technique for the shot selected. Muscles used would be the quadriceps, the hamstrings, and the gluteals. Then we have stage 4, which is feedback. The footballer can see if the free kick was successful based on whether it was on target or if they scored it, which is extrinsic feedback. They will also be able to know how it felt when they hit the ball, which is their intrinsic feedback. So let's have a look at a cricketer, particularly a batsman, hitting a cricket ball. So stage 1, the input. We need to think about what information would the batter be receiving. Stage 2, we need to think about what will the batter be considering when making their decision. Stage 3, the output. What would the batter actually do? And stage 4, feedback. What feedback will the batter receive? I suggest that you try these on your own and pause the video, and then we'll have a look at these together in a moment. Okay, so input. The batter would look at the way the ball is traveling through the air. If it was windy, they would also take this into account. They would be ignoring the movement or noise being made by the other fielders. Decision making. They will be thinking about what shot they should use. They will think about where they hit the ball last time they received a ball like this and if they were successful or not. Should they use the same shot? Then we have the output. The batter makes their decision on what shot to use. The brain sends a message to the muscles to perform the shot. The muscles used would be the biceps, the triceps, the delts, and the traps. And then stage 4, feedback. The batter will see where the ball ends up or know how many runs they scored from that hit, which is extrinsic. So, an exam question. Sports performers need to process information to make decisions. These decisions can affect the outcome of their performance. Complete the diagram below to show the various stages of a basic information processing model. So we're starting with the input. So you will receive 1 mark for each of the other stages. So decision making to start off with. Output is the second, and then feedback. We need to make sure that these are all in the correct order. We also do not credit input because that has already been given to you as a response. Next question. Using the stages of the information processing model, analyze how a performer hits a ball or shuttlecock in a racket sport of your choice. So squash, tennis, or badminton. So we're going to look at the sporting example of a tennis player, but you can pick whether you want to do squash or badminton. So in order to look at the level 3, which is our marks of 5 to 6, we would want to look at knowledge of the stages of information processing is accurate and generally well detailed. Application of a performer hitting a ball or shuttlecock is mostly clear and effective. Analysis is thorough, reaching valid and well-reasoned links to all stages. The answer is generally clear, coherent, and focused, with appropriate use of terminology throughout. So the AO1, we're looking at the stages, which are input, decision-making, output, and feedback. Then we want to have a look at the application. So input, sight of the ball moving towards the player. Decision-making, which shot to play or movement to make. The output, the shot selected to play. Or the feedback, did you play a good shot or hit the ball? And then we have our analysis or evaluation of the stages of information processing being used by the performer. So for input, we would be looking at information from the display. How is the opponent holding the racket, swinging the racket? How is the ball flying with spin? Where is the ball after it is landed? We could also look at selective attention. So blocking out everything, for example, noise, visual stimuli, other than key focus points above, so the ball. And we have our decision making, selection of appropriate response from memory. Have you dealt with this before? Have you seen this a similar type of shot before? We could also recall a recollection of relevant tennis shots from the long-term memory, so executed from short-term memory. Then we have output, information sent to the muscles to carry out the response. So the choice of shot, movement of feet, movement of the racket. Credit, use of appropriate muscles for a shot, such as deltoids or pectorals. And then we have feedback. So this is received by intrinsic or extrinsic. Did you hit the ball? How did it feel? Where did it go? Did you misread the ball? So a reminder of what we looked at today. We start off looking at classification of skills. We looked at self-paced skills, externally paced skills, open skills, closed skills, simple skills, and then complex skills. We then looked at the information processing model, which started with stage 1, the input, stage 2, decision making, stage 3, the output, and stage 4, the feedback.